right. We got some interesting things to talk about, to go over into this week. Obviously, action-packed week. Last week we had Jackson Hole. Not that anybody expected much from Powell, but these, as I mentioned a couple times last week, these events, whether something goes off, notable or not, it has a tendency to change trends. All right. The last major one we spoke about was the election, in where you had that rotation into value, right, from growth to value, and small caps came to life, right, out of nowhere, post-election. So it's important, it's not a given that there's going to be any major trend change, but it's important to keep an eye out, at least for probably the next week or so. We saw already some interesting things. Small caps, we were seeing flow into a lot of spec and underbelly type names going into Jackson Hole. And as you guys are well aware, small caps really caught a bid on Friday. All right. And, we've been talking about the Russell and small caps for a while now, throughout this consolidation. You got a lot of pain that's going to occur out there if this thing starts to really grease up as far as to the upside. You got hedge funds have been hedging a lot of the market short small caps. We look at the short exposure there, even on S3, pretty elevated. In the futures market, index futures, we'll look at that. Hedge funds are pretty short Russell futures. So and that's usually what we see out of the Russell. It goes into hibernation, and then when it goes, it goes. So something to keep an eye on into this week, okay? Because these trends have a tendency of lasting a while. All right, they don't just go away after a couple of days. But we don't want to jump the gun either, right? One day, as they say, one day doesn't make a trend. We want to see follow through, as far as the flow and price action. We want to see some commitment to a lot of these names. And I just think, if we look at across the board, like, this was what my takeaway was coming out of the weekend. By the way, you guys see the screen okay? Everybody sees the screen all right? Okay, good. Because for some reason, TradingView and Zoom doesn't really get along too much. A couple things, looking over all the stuff over the weekend that I've concluded. In other words, if you look at the price action of the market, right? And this is something we talked about a lot, right? You look at just the price of the S&P 500, and everybody's takeaway is that there's euphoria out there, right? There's a bubble out there. And when you look at the positioning, right, where people putting their money where their mouth is, okay? When you look at the positioning and a lot of the sentiment stuff we look at, I'm not going to say the total opposite, but it's far from euphoria, right? Like we were talking about, any little pullback, like even this recent one here, right? If we would have got any sort of follow through to the downside off of this for a couple days, you would have had a lot of things lighting up bullish on those indicators we follow, and it goes to show you that people aren't euphoric, right? You got stubborn bulls out there. People feel like they need to be bullish, but on the first sign of something may go awry, boom, we see them come in, load up on protection. You see the put the call spike, and I told you guys, from my experience, bull markets don't come to an end that way. Bull markets come to an end, and we see them in cycles in the underbelly, right? Bull markets come to an end when there's a dip and nobody's bearish into that dip. Nobody's looking to put on protection because, like we said, it's a waste of money, that sort of thing. We're getting, we get bullish signals on some of the short-term indicators and a put to call. I mean, put to calls, we wouldn't get bullish signals at a put to calls for major corrections. It would take a while. Now you get a down week and you're getting significant bullish signals as a put to call. All right. But basically what I'm trying to get at is when you look at the price of the S&P 500, you pull up a chart and you automatically assume, because this rally has been going on forever, that there's euphoric sentiment positioning out there, and there's not, right? And that's the only thing, right? The price action is the only thing that will make us feel like people are too bullish out there, right? There are other things too, away from the market, right? You guys know me. I have no clue when it comes to any of this shit. But you got, NFT pictures selling for thousands of dollars, right? You got a lot of bubble-like behavior away from the market, right? Outside of equities, okay? But in the equity market itself, it's just not there. And I'll give you another example, okay? We have a market going higher, and we talked about breadth has been awful. Participation has been awful. The stocks that have been leading this recent rally up until late last week have been defensive names. You know what I mean? Staples, utilities, big tech. So it's almost like a flight to safety that's propelling the market higher. All right. And just because the market's higher, going higher, it doesn't mean, right? Sentiment has nothing to do with price action. A lot of times price action will lead to sentiment, but not always and not instantly. So we got to keep reminding ourselves that, I feel, because it's very easy to just assume, right, that sentiment is cooked out there as a whole, and it's not. Okay. The thing that had us cautious the most, it wasn't sentiment. Sentiment hasn't been a concern for a while, has been just the participation in the rally, right? Individual names have been awful. I mean, it got to a point where if you look now, any big name out there, right? Any name that announced a huge buyback was where all the money went. Basically you could have thrown a dart at buyback stocks, right? And here you go again. It usually goes, we were looking at the duration when Goldman put it out, when we had that rotation going on. Now Goldman late last week put out their buyback basket, which has significantly outperformed the market. So that's what I think has been the most concerning to us, has been just the health behind the price action in the individual names. All right. And like we were talking about, there are two ways this ends up resolving itself. Okay. Either you get that wash where it flushes everybody out, you get sentiment across the board light up bullish, and it sets up an entry for another leg higher. Okay. That's what all of us would like. That's what all of us prefer. But guess what? We all want it. Every bull in the world wants a pullback. Chances are it's not going to happen, right? We spoke about that the last couple of weeks. Everyone's got protection on for a pullback. Everybody salivating over a potential pullback as being an entry into this market. A lot of times you don't get that pullback when it's lined up that way, right? So the odds are we're not going to get that, okay? The other way it resolves itself is it forces everybody in eventually, and then you get to that point where, again, we start to see those signs, shorting VIX aggressively, right? in the futures market. SPX no longer, the option market no longer becomes a hedge. It becomes a vehicle to make more money off upside, selling naked puts, right? Buying puts becomes a waste of money. That's the other way it can resolve. Okay, we all want the washout because we know just by looking at every little washout that we've got, every single one off a couple days, look at the breath that look at the breath that came out of this little washout, right? We had disgusting breath this whole entire push higher here, and then we get just this little pullback, and then all of a sudden you're getting thrust days, which is a bullish indicator. So that's what's so alluring. That's why everybody, like us, wants that pullback, because it's a reset, right? Everything shakes out some bulls and things become cleaner again. But, like we were talking the last couple of weeks, I just don't see it. To me, and again, this is a lot, I would say probably more of my gut than anything else, right? Just off my experience. But when the pullback comes, I think it's game over. I really do. Like, in other words, I don't see an in-between. I see these little shakeouts, or I see a big kaboom. I don't see that in-between mini correction that we all and everybody else wants to get a reset in the market here. I don't see it. Now, again, the Taliban or this guy or that guy can launch a nuclear missile that just misses us and lands in the ocean somewhere. Who the hell knows? But with the evidence we have in front of us, this with what we're looking at today, and that's all we can judge, I just don't see it. We look every week, we look for signs. Okay, all right, this is going to be the week where they finally capitulate and they start chasing. I saw another thing too: hedge funds significantly underperforming. Every hedge fund, every type of hedge fund out there, significantly underperforming the S&P 500, right? So you figured they would have to chase aggressively. So, this last rally, I'm saying to myself, all right, this has got to be it. This is the time hedge funds go, they step on the gas. We were seeing it in flow, right? Hedge fund sweeps. This is where they really get aggressive, and maybe, it's the final chapter. They spit up into this. In other words, they puked up their longs into this. So now you got this U-turn, and they got to look to put that exposure back on just to get to a neutral stance again where they were. When you guys know, when hedge funds significantly underperform the market, they got to get super aggressive to make that up. Super aggressive. Yeah, and that's the thing. Otherwise, they don't stay in business. Not like us. Us, we can miss a trade, we can miss a trend. We got nobody to answer to. There's no one pulling accounts. There's nobody taking money away from us. These guys are forced to do certain things when they get caught offsides. Forced. So anyway, we're going to look at quite a few things this weekend that's really interesting. There's another, it seems like every week there's another must-watch economic number or Fed event or something going on. And there is this week, okay? Again, grand scheme of things, we don't know how important it really is to Powell or the taper, okay? But you got the job number coming out this week. And we know, obviously, from Powell telling us himself, it's a major influencer, okay? You get a miss on that job number, and then you can really forget about the taper, okay? Job number comes in strong, then it's more of kind of what's expected, in my opinion, okay? But you get a miss on the job number, and we got kind of a holiday week this week, so it should be light volume again, and then everybody finally will come back to the desk. The job number Friday, is the market open? Yeah, right. Yeah, so you got like you got a couple of job numbers. The big job number is, I think, Friday. The other numbers, I think, Wednesday, Thursday, claims and stuff like that. I'll post the schedule tonight on there in the private Twitter and the market updates anyway. Yeah, in other words, the first numbers that come out before the big number kind of give you a feel to what to expect. Right. Payroll, ADP and payroll. So they kind of give you a feel of what to expect, right? Friday, always on a Friday is I think even if the market's closed, to be honest, but always on the Friday, job number comes out. Market closed next. Oh, so Monday, that's right. Labor Day. All right. So that's the one thing in the way towards the end of the week. And prior to that, here's another thing too, before I forget, what can possibly happen. Okay. We may see, and maybe last week was a prelude to it, we could very easily see the NASDAQ kind of lag and the small caps and Russell lead, that sort of thing. Okay. And the reason I say that, there were a couple things on the NASDAQ futures sentiment, stuff like that. That flashed the sell signal late last week. So there are a couple things signaling that some of these big NASDAQ names could possibly breathe. Okay. So we may see kind of the underbelly, the total opposite of what we've been seeing. So strong breath, underbelly lead, and maybe the NASDAQ, some of the major indices slowing down a bit. All right. So something to keep an eye out. And like I said, maybe Friday was a prelude to that. Okay. But there are definitely signs of underbelly action coming back into play. Okay. There are definitely signs. Again, I don't want to jump the gun off one day, making me feel a lot better early this week. We start to see that outperformance, and we see flow really focus on that, which it has been, but they've been buying other stuff with it, but if we start to see confirmation of that, that's going to be at least a fun time for us, because you get those small caps, those of us who like to play that, like the BBIG on Friday. You get these cheap little crazy names that can go bonkers. You also get, some of those Kathy names start to outperform. You know what I mean? Some of the names that have been dead for a while. As a matter of fact, like you look at this ARK, maybe that starts to outperform for the next couple of weeks at least. So definitely quite a few things to keep an eye on going into this week. But from what I see, and I don't see much of anything bearish. I'm being dead straight with you guys. I don't see much of anything bearish. Short term, let's say we push tomorrow, maybe we get a sell on the anti-VIX. We end up with a sell on tactical sentiment. Those are short-term things. They get washed out in days, right? But I'm talking about, big picture, right? Big picture stuff where we should be borderline euphoria right now. In equities, it's not there. It's not there. So and you guys will see exactly, if you've been looking at the indicators I've been posting over the weekend and stuff and during the week, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so I didn't post too much over the weekend, but definitely some of the more important things. All right, so let's go short term here. We'll start off, right? And I got a little rundown here that I threw out there today. So you guys just get a quick look, at some of the key indicators. All right. And we'll talk about sectors too. Oops. All right. So here, let's start with the put the calls. Okay. Here's the anti-VIX. Let's start there. All right. So again, you had this, right, which was a really nice entry, and it's going to be a quality entry, guys, as long as we're in a bullish trend. Oh, and there we go. As long as we're in a bullish trend, you're going to see these signals end up being quality entries. All right. What you really don't want to build too much of a habit out of is swinging off just off this. Okay. So in other words, buying off this and placing a bet for a month out. Okay. Because there's going to be a time where we end up going into some chop or some consolidation, and these are still going to be decent short-term signals for entries. But if you take that profit off the table, you know what I mean? But these up to this point have been great swing entries if you're looking for entries on swing trades as well. All right. So again, bullish signal and got stuck here late in the week. VIX kind of found the bottom. But they have, I mean, players have had a tendency when they smash VIX, they look to put on protection, and they've been utilizing VIX to do it. So that's really prevented this from getting to technically a sell signal, or even sometimes this thing lingers up here. You know what I mean? That's why it's not the best short signal. This thing can sit up here for a bit. We just haven't seen it because players are rushing to put on VIX every time VIX gets smashed, VIX protection. All right. The way I've been using it, when it gets up here, right? When it gets up here, anything like the market, I'd be really careful about in regards to new entries. And, not that I'm a big chaser anyway. You guys know I don't feel comfortable chasing, but anything that's been up or green, I really try to stay away from. If nothing looks delicious out there, I don't mind sitting pat and waiting for a washout, as opposed to this where I'm kind of like forcing myself to find something, right? So it's kind of the opposite. So we have some room here. We definitely have some room here, but as it gets closer, be careful on new entries. That's all. Oops. Okay. So here the put the calls have been back in play lately, and it's rare. It's rare. If you remember the whole post-COVID riffraff rush where you couldn't even look at a put the call. The put the call went woo, just bled to death every day. All right, so they were useless. Now, they're back in. They're back in play where they're really nice to keep an eye on. As far as, again, how to weigh your risk. Okay. From my experience, and this is what I was kind of referring to on Friday, signaling that the market could push higher if it wanted to, this usually gets washed out completely, right? So when you get a spike like this is the equity put the call, okay? A lot of times you'll get it wash out. We'll see it intraday too. This is an end of the day read here, right? But we look at it intraday and you'll see a complete washout where it just crashes, okay? And what that tells us is all that hedging and protection that players put on, they're unwinding, they've unwound it basically. Okay. When you get, stubborn, this is again, I love to use that word, right? They're stubborn, so they really don't want to let go of those hedges. The market forces them to, right? So you just get that grind higher continuously, and then eventually they cave in and you'll see it bleed out. All right. So something to watch for here on the equity put the call. All right. And the equity put the call has been a great read because we know already, right? We've been keeping a close eye on S&P 500 put the call and index put the call, because that's where a lot of the hedging and protecting has been taking place. okay? When they really get concerned, then they start slapping protection on in equities. And that's when you get these spikes. You know what I mean? So that's where you can use it to really get a good read on concern out there. Okay. They are the put buying in the indexes and the S&P 500. When they're bullish, they're buying protection on the S&P 500 and index. Okay. So we see those two put the call ratios elevated when players are feeling bullish because they're buying equities, okay, and they're buying, like we said, S&P 500 protection or on any other index. All right. Again, going back to what we were talking about at the start, that's not euphoria. Okay. Players aren't going to dish out all sorts of money on hedging and protecting, right? When they're euphoric, they get sloppy, right? Like we talked about, they feel protection's a waste of money, right? They get to that point. So we're not seeing that, obviously. We're seeing the opposite of that. And here's like the S&P put the call, and take this into consideration. Put the call ratios are exactly that. Okay, they measure volume, puts to calls traded. Okay, it's not the cleanest read on what's going on in the options market. That's why for the S&P put the call, the S&P 500 put the call, we wait for that net put delta number, NPD. That gives us a little better read if they're selling puts, right, closing them out, or selling to open, or buying puts. Right? A spike doesn't always mean that they're buying puts. All right, so that's why we have that number. We use that as confirmation. But you can see spikes in this thing. You know what I mean? So this is the S&P 500. Put the call. And what you'll see too, the Gamma Gang talks about this a lot. You'll see this crash, right? And what they like, the Gamma Gang, what they like to look for is not just one day where it washes out, a couple days of it. And that to them means that, again, that's sloppy positioning. They're feeling a little too strong now, right? They're not putting on that S&P 500 protection. And that opens up the window for a little rinse. This is the total put the call. Oh no, that's the equity we just looked at. This is the total. See, this is the total put the call. Look at this. All right, this has got to come down here. You see where it hangs out when they get bullish. So there's still some hedges out there if the market wants to force them into taking that stuff off. Here's tactical sentiment. All right, so if we do get another strong day or two, we might finally get an official sell signal. All right, and again, use it for entries. If you're holding on to a name and you're up on it, whatever, you don't sell everything because this thing gets the sell signal or close to sell signal. It's just when this thing gets there, you want to be careful on any new money you're risking that you're not looking to get out of right away. And they've been talking about front running. They've been front running our ass on the buy signal here too, which is getting annoying. Yes, definitely. I feel like they're front running it. I'm not going to lie. They call me conspiracy theorist or what, Pete? It's really pissing me off. So that's why, listen, if you're looking to get aggressive, right? This is something we spoke about quite a few times, right? If you're looking to get aggressive, you like what you see and you're looking to be aggressive, but you also want to be smart about it, and you want you want to find entries where sentiment is at least favorable. Okay, you can go boom, go to the more aggressive indicator and go to the anti-VIX. You know what I mean? And utilize that, right? I mean, foolish if you like what you see out there. It's foolish to say, well, I'm just going to wait for that official buy signal on the tactical. Otherwise, I'm not going to do a damn thing. Right? Because, this is just, it's a level, it's a number, right? Like here, if you like what you see, you got a bullish signal on the anti-VIX, and this thing is here. You know what I mean? What, are you not going to pull the trigger because of that? Now, don't get me wrong. You don't like what you see, right? Breath is horrible. Things look like shit, and you're looking to be conservative. That's a different story. But if you're looking to be aggressive, you like what you see, you want to find something to buy, you don't have to wait technically for the green zone here. Utilize this on an intraday basis. You know what we've been seeing a lot too, right? And you guys who follow this closely like I do would vouch. We get this, and this happens too in bull markets a lot, right? We get this here, and then what happens is the following day you get some weakness, right? And if we close weak, we're probably going to have that buy signal, but then we get the squeeze, right? And then you get this. You get the bounce. So, it doesn't last to the end of the day, and that's where the anti-VIX really can come clutch, can really come clutch. All right, what else we got here? I definitely want to talk about gamma because it's been really interesting. I mean, let's talk about it a little bit. I got the other chart I want to show you too. Hold on. Where's my coffee? There's a lot of things, people looking at gamma all different ways right now, right? The way I've been looking at it, we talked about it. It's nothing new. I'm looking at that zero gamma level. And, anytime there's a sell-off and we're coming close to that, to me, again, with everything in front of us right now, the evidence in front of us until we see something change, that zero gamma level is like an ultimate floor. You know what I mean? That's the way I'm looking at it. And we've had the luxury of this. Let me go to gamma now. Okay, and you could see it, right? That's what I like this chart better. You can see it, right? So I shaded green, basically the zero gamma. And, acts like a floor there. Now, yeah, it's possible that you get one of these where dips, well, that didn't even go below it, or this, right? Okay, but the way to look at it is, even if you're early, because gamma is zero or below zero, when that turn comes, it's going to be a powerful one. You know what I mean? It's going to be a powerful one. And usually, like I told you guys, unless something happens between now and September expiration to really crack this is where this trade is going to come to an end. Okay, see this here? I really do think this is to our benefit. With, again, what we're looking at right now, right? Like I said, I give the example of the Taliban shoots a nuclear missile at us, all bets are off, right? But with what we have in front of us right now, and what we're seeing as far as positioning is concerned, it's just not there for gamma to act in a significantly bearish way right now. The way it works in a positive way, I think, for us is that it's going to give us these little dips, right? And we know that chances are there's going to be a nice little concrete floor underneath it. Right, exactly, Ani. So this is, I think, what Ani's talking about. This is where we got to be careful. I thought it was going to happen into the August expiration. It didn't, right? So we got to keep an eye on it into the September expiration. Now, on that note, everybody and their mother, Bloomberg already shot out like 10 articles about it. Okay. If we see this starting to really creep up here, right? Well, you don't want to wait to that last week of expiration to be cautious. You know what I mean? Because they're front running everything right now. And now with so many eyeballs on that, they're finally figured out that it's options expiration for the reason for these little rounds of volatility. They just figured that out now, right? But now you have so many eyeballs on it. So like Ani's saying, if you see this thing start, you can start to see it tack on continuously. As we get closer to that September expiration, you really want to be careful, because that's where gamma can work against you. And, you know, Ani will tell you, the price action gets really, really sticky when you start elevating up here. Right now, it's, yeah, there's not a lot of movement, but, you know, I still look at it. I think it's not bad out there, considering it's the summer. You know, you're getting these little dips that can be bought. When gamma is sticky, you get nothing. You get gap up and stick. Gap up, stick. You get nothing. You know? Yep. So September expiration is the one to keep an eye on here, right? We should see this. Okay. We should see, my opinion, I think we should see the biggest number you see on here. I really do. I think it's going to be September expiration, may not be. Maybe it's October, God knows, you know. But I think when it does happen, you're going to really start to see this thing move. All right. In the meantime, you know, those little dips again, think of that, right? And look, right, not even you can't pay attention necessarily to price action, right? Because look at this, like you got this dip was this dip was this, right? But look at this. That was over here. Is that expiration's the 12th? Wow, that comes early. That's the third Friday? No. Oh, no, it can't be. I thought you were talking about it. No. I think it's one more week after that, I think, but I could be wrong. I'm not quite sure. Probably be a good idea to find that out right now. I'll check it. 17th. That's what it is. One more week after that. And the Fed meeting is 3 days. Oh, wow. Maybe, Samir, maybe. But you see, like this dip I highlighted here, right? This one right here. Look how minor it looks on the chart. Okay, like you don't know if this dip is going to turn into this, right, or something bigger like this. But look at this. You know, is it coincidence it stopped right there? You know what I mean? So that's where I think it provides us, you know, an edge here, you know. So we'll keep an eye on it. I'll keep you guys filled in. You know, I'm looking at this stuff every day. I post it every day. Another thing I found interesting, again, I don't follow this too closely, but I do look at it time to time. These are the IG clients, which probably the biggest round of degenerates you're going to find. No offense to anybody who trades on there. All right. But they're position bearish. You know what I mean? They're position bearish. These two on the bottom here, and then the bottom gives you another look at it. You know, so another thing, yeah, you rarely see markets, you know, head south when these guys are, I mean, they're pretty bearish. No, these are not just the weekend. This is just in general, IG. The weekend I posted on my Twitter, I think they're like 67% short the weekend. This is in general. And you know what's crazy? Like, look at all the currencies, oil, gold, silver, everything out there, right? This is where they're most bearish. Strange. With everybody talking about September XO, you don't think everybody's going to be heads out the eye? But very possible, Speed. That's a great point. The only thing I can see is that they front run the front runners. You know what I mean? They front run the front runners. That's the only thing that I could see. Otherwise, I agree. There's so many, so many eyeballs on it that everyone's going to be waiting for that expiration week. So, maybe it happens before that. I think on the gamma end, I think we're probably going to see it before then anyway. Like, you're going to see this start to elevate like that, And, it doesn't always end up being a volatility event or a big sell-off, but a lot of the major sell-offs end up coming off a spike like that. That's why it's so widely watched, as far as the gamma aficionado crowd and all that, because you got a whole chunk of gamma coming off. So we'll see. Yeah. I don't really follow that, Dix. But I know like that's a low reading, right? But it looks out, right? It's not really short term. Samir's talking about this. This is like another thing Squeeze Metrics follows, not as much these days, but they still follow it. Dark pool index. And when you see these big spikes, it's the blue. That's usually a really bullish sign. I would say intermediate term, not really short term, but intermediate term. On Friday, you got this. And that would mean the opposite. So intermediate term, possibly a sell-off. But you could see here, like, look, this was over here. That did lead to a sell-off. Looks like a couple of weeks later. You got a couple here. Yeah, a little volatility. You might get a little volatility. Oh, 90 days out. Thank you. I knew it was something like that. 90 days out. Okay. So it's intermediate term. 90 days out. Look at this. Another bullish nugget. Okay. ETF flows, right? Euphoria. We talk about all the money on the freaking sidelines. How much cash is on the sidelines, right? We've heard about it. We talked about it. Ginormous piles of cash. Okay. It's not coming into equities. The flows have been subpar. They've been positive, but subpar. And last week, they took all their money out. Maybe they're going into crypto. Very possible. And these are ETFs. This is not like individual names either. Like we're complaining about individual names for weeks now. This is ETFs. You're supposed to be all bulled up in SPY, in the Qs. No. How could you not be bulled up in the SPYs and Qs now? So they sold the shit out of SPY. Materials. Remember how hot materials we were talking? They finally sold materials. Industrials. Russell. Nobody wants to Russell. It's nuts. It's nuts. All right, so put that in the bullish column. Certainly not bearish. We have nothing here, sector sentiment. But some of the hotter things cooled off. So that's a plus. Right? So we have materials neutral, financials. By the way, talking about financials, the buybacks in financials. Oh my God, man. Yeah, honestly, we talk about rigged markets. That's borderline rigged market. I don't even know if it's borderline. The buybacks in financials, and I remember we're wondering, like, rates have come in a decent amount. How did financials get really beat up? Buybacks last week, Bova posted, they bought the shit out of financials into that pullback in buybacks. They bought the living shit out of it, out of that group. All buybacks. Nothing from retail, nothing from anybody. All buybacks. Yeah. And they look at it, right? It's legal. They see value in their own stocks. But I mean, you're talking about crazy numbers right now. Financials have taken over tech. Tech had a big number. Financials got a big number. Big number. So they're buying their own stock, hand over fist. And remember, when they were underperforming, they weren't. Remember, there was a window they couldn't buy back their stock. Remember? So the window has opened, and boy, are they taking advantage of it. So anyway, you got neutral there, neutral materials, mining, nice little washout there. Semis, you almost got a buy signal there. Nice bounce out of LRCX. NVIDIA keeps going. AMD looks good. NXPI, which is a cyclical semi, just keeps going higher every day, which is bucking the trend because cyclicals haven't really been performing that well. But so you had a nice bounce out of the semis. Biotech, fine, right? Healthcare, oil was one of the few groups that was in buy territory, or well, really close to it. Yeah, had a real nice one. I think it was up like $30, LRCX. So energy, now you got this hurricane too. Energy looks really good. Even over the shorter term here. We've been seeing some decent flow there too. Devon put some big action. So energy there, you got crude. Is crude up? I'm sure, right? Crude's up again. Up 50 cents right now. All right, so a lot of momentum there. But everything here is okay. Everything here is okay. Nothing, utilities was the hot group. That even cooled a little bit. So you got no sell signals here. No buy signals, but no sell signals. This group, right, we were trying to figure out, do you just buy Amazon or what? But you got some decent sentiment here. Consumer discretionary. Amazon or Tesla, right? Here is, by the way, those of you who like the BBIGs and all those names, pay attention. Those of you who play the equity and the little guys, this is where this scan comes in handy, right? When the small caps are dead, this is pretty much useless. But when they get hot, you're going to see at least 3 pages, at least. And you can find names early before they get bombarded. They're poking around it. So if you're into that game, a couple thousand shares of IO off the UOA got crushed. UIO, what's IO? I don't know IO. Here's world markets. Same thing, right? You got China, emerging markets, but nothing, pretty much neutral here. France, all right, but not bearish. I sound a lot more bullish than the week. The only reason I sound more bullish, I probably do. It's because of the participation. I think, Trey, I think there's opportunity to make money in individual names again. I think that's right. So you remember the last time you were around, and honestly, up until last week, all kidding aside, it was up until last week. You really couldn't play individual names. You have to be really tactical, because the rotation out there, the participation out there, the randomness out there. Remember we were talking about that? It was just abysmal. You could see it in breadth. Breadth was awful. The market went up, and besides Google and this and that, you couldn't find names that were up. So we started to see a little of that change. And like I said at the start, I don't want to get too excited because we really want to see confirmation of this, but we finally started to see that change last week. Okay. Oh, shit. Hold on. So just to give you an idea, like even Friday, forget the market rally, because we've seen the market rally and breadth awful. Okay. This is, right? So all in one shot, look at that. So you had basically, like we were talking about, breadth abysmal, right? Bleeding out every day. Markets weren't crashing, right? Some of those days the markets were up, and then boom, Thursday and Friday. So just looking at simple breadth measures, you could see there was more participation. And the reason for that is this. Oh, I got the line chart. The Russell. You know what I mean? The Russell's the reason, the big reason behind it. All right, Jules. Jesus Christ, Jules. Okay, hey, go back to bed. So, you know what I mean? You got, and we've seen the Russell rally before, right? We've seen a rally. So it's not like, again, it's not the price action, it's the price action of the underbelly that really was impressive. It really was impressive. All right. So if we do see it continue, this is where we want to lean TNA, right? On dips. Like that will be the go-to ETF, like back to that sort of thing. We've seen this before. But if this is the big one, guys, like if this breaks, there's a lot of money to be made in these little guys. And that could be another thing that we need to see before the music stops. You need to see the small caps catch up finally. Yeah, we saw some decent flow in IWM. Even ARC caught a nice sweep. So we're really starting to see some of these other things, Tree, get involved, because it's been awful. It's been awful. SYY, that's a food stock. And that's the other thing. There's so many different types of things, right? It wasn't just tech. There were a lot of different groups. Like, I don't even know some of the groups in some of these names that caught action. But it looks good. It looks good. We'll look at names in a second. Let me flash through this. All right, so this is interesting, right? We like to look at this. Here we go. Hedge funds. Here, bloop, spit it up into the puke. All right, we thought this would finally play catch up out of all this and chase. They didn't. What's even more interesting is in futures, I think. So look at this. You have S&P 500. That's what they were long in the futures market. I'm talking about hedge funds here. They trimmed some of their long. Okay, so they're still long. They trimmed some of their long. NASDAQ, they've been net short. Remember, this whole entire time, they've been net short the NASDAQ. All right. They trimmed their short in the NASDAQ. All right. So they took down their short in the NASDAQ. Now they're only short a smidge. They're still short. Russell, look at this. You want to talk about pain trade? So they're net short, and they added to their shorts last week. So this is the pain trade. This is the pain trade. And here is the dollar. All right, so they were short the dollar. I mean, I wouldn't put too much into this. They're long the dollar, but possibly it leads to a weak dollar, you know. But I don't really pay attention to the dollar too much, hedge fund positioning, because it could mean a number of things. Crude oil, they're always long crude oil futures, so you got to take that into consideration. But they've been selling. Okay, they sold again last week. Crude, nice shakeout in crude positioning. Gold, you can see they're almost always long gold. They've been short gold once, and it was the best buy signal you'll ever see in it. So not really too much of a read in that other stuff. Oh, and here's VIX. All right. So they here, again, almost always short VIX protection and stuff like that. Where are they here? Here. They net short 73 down. They cut their shorts in VIX. Okay. If this is a problem, this would be down here. See that? See how short out the eyeballs, like IW, like the Russell. Like they're short the Russell, they would short VIX, and that could lead to a VIX explosion. But they're all the way over here. All right, but again, the biggest takeaway, I still think this is noteworthy, you know. Again, it's just a lot of those big tech names are in the clouds. I mean, maybe it's underbelly NASDAQ. Here's another thing that possibly, again, we'll talk about this stuff in names, but maybe this starts to come alive a little bit. QQQJ, right? This is another thing we've been talking about throughout, has been underperforming, doing nothing. Look at this. Chop. And ready to break highs. So that's another thing to keep an eye on, QQQJ, along with the TNA, to see if this really has much follow through. That's a good segue to Sharpies, right? Let's go to Sharpies. Look at this. Goldman positioning, still. Gatsangul, nothing. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. The closest to euphoria, in my opinion, was late February. You know what I mean? That was the time the market to take down the market. And they didn't. What they did is they took down that everything that was in a bubble instead of the market. Market just had a pullback a couple days. This is another thing. Yeah, topped and blew up. This is another thing on the flows. For the first time in 5 weeks, U.S.-based equity funds experienced outflows, losing $6 billion in the week to Wednesday. In the prior 4, $28.8 billion came in. Here's fear greed, which is fear greed moving. See, breath was better, fear greed acting better, right? This I want to show you guys too with the NASDAQ, because that's one of the few bearish things out there was that Another sentiment indicator. They all look like this. They all look like this. Okay, let me get the Sharpies here. All right, so here's what's going on in Sharpies. The main indicator, Sharpie riffraff, nothing. Okay, no signal, nothing. Call it neutral. Ooh. Okay, when you dig in to each and every index, it looks a little bit different though. Okay, sharp hedgers without the riffraff involved, they are hedged. Okay, an average of all their positioning, they are hedged, but they trim their NASDAQ long. Okay, remember they were leaning long NASDAQ. Remember we've been talking about that, and then they added to it recently. Whoop, right? They trimmed that positioning back. Not major, but they took back that long exposure. Nothing going on in VIX, right? Spoke about that little pop, came back in, nothing notable. Here is Russell futures. Now, yeah, I could easily gas this up to being uber bullish, but in itself, you know, I'm told not to put as much into this as you would put into the NASDAQ and the S&P 500, okay? Because it's thinner, it doesn't have the weighting the other two have as far as the signal, all right? But with everything else we're seeing, all right, I mean, they've really added here to their small cap exposure, Russell 2000. All right, so that's pretty bullish. You know, here's the zero line. So they've been getting long into this consolidation, but you can see now is really, you know, start to take off here. All right. So that was the other Russell nugget I wanted to share, make sure I share with you guys. Let me show you this quickly. So this is daily sentiment futures, okay? S&P 500 elevated, but it's got room. No reason to overreact. NASDAQ fired a sell signal midweek, came back in, call it a sell signal here. So you got a sell signal on the NASDAQ. All right. So that's why a possibility, it's definitely possible. It wouldn't surprise me one bit, and it makes sense. You see flattish market, underbelly small caps outperform. Back to the days where, remember, don't pay too much attention to what the indices are doing today. Pay attention to the sweeper activity, the underbelly, and the individual names. You remember that? How it feels like it was a decade ago. We were at the complete opposite, right? The smoothest way to make money would be play the S&P 500 off dips, right? We've been in that mode for quite a while now, okay? Things are lined up to where we could see that change. So that's what we really got to keep an eye out for. Yeah, and that's where, again, sweeper activity and individual names really, provide an edge. Because, a lot of people get tied up to looking at the indices, see what they're doing, and then making moves. But you can see how that can really backfire. We went through a period of time where it was the worst to play names, even though the markets were moving higher. And now, if this does, if it comes to fruition, could be a really nice pocket to play names where the indices maybe don't do too much. Yeah, for short term, exactly. For short term stuff. Exactly. It's the swing trading that's been a menagerie. All right, there was something else on the tip of my tongue before we start talking about names. I forgot what it was. Oh, yeah, if you guys want to, if you really want to look at the gamma levels, stuff like that, you can find that on here. Okay, here's a gamma neutral. It even tells you what's cool. Each expiration, it updates every day. Delta adjusted, put the call ratio, stuff like that. There was another thing that I maybe I still already there. Maybe the future thing. I think that's it then. Is that it? That's it. This table, yeah. If you know what you're looking at, it's not as busy. Basically, look. All right. You got, yeah, this stuff I don't need to mention. You know, futures contract, group exit, closing price, delta neutral. Okay. Gamma neutral. These are the numbers. So gamma neutral is gamma 0. And these are gamma bands. We don't really look at them, but a lot of people use them, you know, kind of like Bollinger Bands, but these are gamma bands, right? So if you wanted to apply them onto your chart, if you're a Bollinger Band fan, this is how much premium to gamma neutral. So what I look at, Ani, I look at this, right? I'm looking at this to see where the number is, how far away the number is, if you just want to know at a quick glance. And this too is giving you sentiment in SPX options. So quite bullish in the Septembers, 87%, and then further out, right, not as bullish. And these are put to calls, you know, put to calls. So it looks a little messier, crazier than it actually is. And this will help too, down here. All right, so down here basically gives you an explanation of what it all means. And what you'll see is you'll see this, like when we get to gamma neutral, you'll see this light up blue, like this, light blue. And gamma and delta neutral, you see a dark blue. That's all. Nothing too crazy. All right, so you guys want to talk about names? We should talk about names a bit and then we'll wrap it up. What are you guys looking at? We got earnings too. We didn't even mention that. Earnings, that's another thing, Tree, that's out of the way. That I probably sound a little more giddy. You know, earnings are a pain in the ass all the time. Cost me quite a few winners in equities, in stocks that I had. All right, let's shoot. Yeah, BBIG was a beauty. Did you guys hold any of the equity? Because I heard, does this show it? It was gunning after hours. Yeah, wow. Yeah, let me see. Oh yeah, look, it shows it. 7.5. I day traded it too, Ani. I don't have any. Wow. Where this thing closed where? 5 and change, right? 5. Yep. Woo. And you know, this, I guess this is what set it. By the way, the amount of action in this sport was insane. You know, it was a little tough to buy the last couple of days after the move, but we all literally had more than enough time to buy this thing. I own this thing quite a few times already. I didn't have any into the big run. Yeah, this thing caught a lot of action. So what was it? Just a short squeeze, right? Is that all it was? Yeah. What a crazy stock. I know. Insanity. Insanity. And you know, like here, there you go. This looks better. Like here, right? Among, like if you look over here where all the flow was coming in, you know, it would look like a healthy stock. You know what I'm saying? And then after, oh, it was gamma 2 related. Wow. Yeah, I know the short interest people were saying. But yeah, tons of action, even before the craziness. Just a ton of action in this name. And this is a Bitcoin miner. Is that what this is? Or is it NFT? What is it? Bitcoin miner, right? I don't even know what the hell these things do. So yeah, then this thing became this thing right off the open. This is another name I owned. I took this name for a swing a couple months back. Where that was here, right? Yeah, here somewhere. And then went dead, and then look at this, just exploded. So yeah, you don't want to fall in love with these names, but yeah, you could really get lucky in these things. All right, so don't get too greedy on this thing. Come Monday, if you get the pop, locks them in. Yeah, BBIG. I remember I really liked this thing back before all this. It caught some really nice action. So kind of I remember the name. What else we got? So I see already you guys talking a lot of small caps out there, huh? Let's see. What is this? CLSD, Clearside Medical. Wow, did this guy? Oh, that reminds me. Another thing to look at if we get the underbelly small caps, right? Ooh, XBI and your favorite Labu. All right, so keep an eye on those two. I know quite a few of you like to play these. Just look at it. It's unreal. Like Labu has been dead. XBI has been dead. These are small cap biotech. And, IBB has been stellar. So you might see some rotation the other way if, again, the other underbelly and small caps start to outperform and gain some attention. Roku, I'm a big Roku fan. You guys know that. So you got a nice dip here. Should bounce. I guess it could go in the underbelly name, but underbelly category. But I'm not so sure. But you got a nice spot there for a bounce if you like the name. If you like the name. Oh, that reminds me. You had the Roku, this selling came off of earnings, if you remember. So I didn't really dig into the earnings report. I don't know too much about what went on. You do have some flow there. So again, if you like the name, you like the entry, it's worth a shot. This name. I'm sure you all saw it Friday. Unbelievable. This pisses me off a little bit. And I think they announced a buyback. Am I right, Bill? Announced a buyback? You believe this, Tree? That was the earnings reaction. Can you believe this? Is it a Josh Brown stock? 10% buyback. I can't believe it. Is Kathy owns it too? I didn't know that. But yeah, it was just one of these, unrecognized hot growth names that was bound to catch fire at some point. So yeah, Roku looks interesting. What was the other name you guys just mentioned? That Snap too, right? Snap caught that big action. And I could be mistaken, but if I remember Snap running for some reason with underbelly and small caps, doesn't it? Or no? Or maybe that just was coincidence. But yeah, anyway, you guys are bringing it up because of all that big action that came in. I'm kind of looking more new names here, but again, these things may not be my cup of tea, but they're all clutch. AMD we spoke about. You had a nice breather there. Could head higher. Stephen Figs had a little bit of flow. was keeping you in mind. I saw a little bit of action in it on Friday. You know, nothing really good looking, but there were some signs of flow there. Does look interesting. S. Tree, did you play this S? Was it you? Oh, somebody played this S. I was wondering if they still had. Oh, was it UMG or maybe it was you? Nice. What a beast. I eyeballed it too. I definitely I eyeballed it. I bought it with the eyes. I bought it with the eyes. Oh, Path, right? Path is another one that hasn't really done much at all. Could get going. Could definitely get going. You know, this guy looks good. DOCN. I remember you mentioned that name, right? Yeah, look at this thing. This looks good. What the hell do they do again? Oh, Cloud. Well, there you go. That looks really good. ATR. This one was really active Friday. Where they have Rocket Failure? Oh, it's a space name? This guy? Rocket Failure. I didn't even know it was a space name. Home Goods. Oh, he said Rocket Failure. I don't know. See, these names, you know, like for me, we want to be more on our toes with these type of names. You know, even the BBIGs of the world, you kind of want to get in as early as possible, have a little bit of cushion, and then use that to your advantage. You know, we don't want to go looking for too much crap. You know what I'm saying? We want to kind of still look for decent names. We don't want to buy the crap of the crap, because I think they're going to get left behind at some point, even if this rally continues. I think they're going to start. You know, like we want to look for the new growth names, right? The new growth names that are kind of under the radar, but could be, you know, legitimate names. You know, legitimate names. It's just because of the market environment, they've been ignored. You know, so yeah, somebody mentioned MGNI. That's definitely a name to watch. You know, even more so, guys, if we get a little bit of weakness, you know, even more so if we get a little bit of weakness. In other words, when these things are down, that's ultimately going to tell us a lot that when they're down, do they come in and buy them? You know, it's easy to buy them when they're up. People chasing these things and getting squeezed. Wow, this looks interesting too. What the hell is this? This is tech too, like underbelly tech, right? Yeah, it looks really good. Looks really good. T-Mobile. It looks okay. I'm just, you know, doesn't excite me. T-Mobile, I'm not going to get too excited about. Starbucks, that thing's been a beast, right? Did that pull? Let me see. Oh, it did pull. All right, so that's why you're looking at it. I just, you know, you're asking the wrong guy. I'm being honest. I don't like my opinion's not even valuable for this type of stuff. You know, this egg already hatched. So you kind of like you're buying the pull for a trade type thing, right? That's what you're doing here. You haven't recognized anything early. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, you know, if you could get a little flow and you want to get a trade, a bounce out of it, that's the way I would look at it. You know, it's not undiscovered, put it that way. Disney too. You know what's going to be interesting? The cyclical names in how they act, especially got the job number because of rates. You know, look. like all that excitement, right? The end of the week with Jackson Hole. And, like if you didn't look, you wouldn't have even realized rates went down. The 10-year yield went down on Friday. So my point I'm trying to make it for people who are not really following this stuff, you got to be careful with some of the cyclical names if this goes back down here. Because you're going to get that algo selling. You're going to get that algo selling. So the good thing I will say is that you had this, right? They were down on a pretty big, important week. And, you still got Russell outperformance. You know what I mean? So maybe they're looking to break that mold. I don't even understand the reasoning behind that. Why they sell the small caps when rates go lower, but it is what it is. Yeah, that's why still it makes very little sense to me that algos are on sell mode every time rates go lower to sell small caps when, are they that big of a weighting, these two? How big of a weighting are they? Are they that big? No, in the index, I'm saying, because look, you had, granted, they both had these, good weeks, AMC and GameStop, but I think Friday was the noteworthy day in the small caps. And if I'm not mistaken, these two were down, weren't they? I could be wrong though. Up a little bit, so GameStop, AMC didn't do much at all, and you really had a lively day in the Russell. That's what it is. It's not this, right? Looks like this. We've been down that road. This day on Friday was different. You know what I mean? Was different. And that's why we got to take note. And look, you saw, hedge funds they shorted the shit out of the Russell last week. You know what I mean? They added to shorts. So they didn't think the playbook changed, but Friday, something changed. You know what I mean? Something changed. And, if you get them caught off sides. So like I said, something keep an eye out. And the signs are going to be not only just the flow, but, let's say we have a flat day or down day, you're going to see the Russell outperform. You'll see the Russell green while the NASDAQ and ES are selling. You know what I mean? Yeah, this kind of caught a lot of people off guard Friday. So, not too many people were expecting that. I know you were playing. Well, that was a nice entry you had. You were playing the range here. You've been playing the range though, right? Nothing new for you. Yeah, because you've had this clean range here. Yeah, well, Friday was kind of middle of the range. No, it was kind of tricky here. It was a little tricky. And then you have rates down. You think maybe nothing exciting happens here, and then boop. So it's going to be interesting to watch. And like I said, you got other things, XBI, Labu. There are other things that are tangled up in this web that have been underperforming that can play a little catch up. Yeah, and XBI had some nice put selling into the lows, but that was also a bull sign, XBI. I remember Steven talking about that. Yeah, TNA. I love TNA. Probably, you know what it is? I think, well, TQQQ too, I do okay with. But TNA's probably, I have the most success trading TNA in these leveraged ETFs. The other stuff, it's kind of messy for me. You play what, weeklies on TNA? Oh, you're talking about the chart. Yeah, well, let's see, let's see. And I mean, you got to look at IWM. It's TN, like here's clean cut, right? Like that, you're looking to bust that out. I'm telling you, for the first time, I think it's something we got to pay a little more closer attention to, a little more attention to. And I think we're going to see the action in the names. We're going to see the action in the names, hopefully, that'll tip us off. Nice, Derek. Very nice. Samir, if you know what I mean, I didn't see, what do you mean? I always get stuck with TNA if I'm not in it for more than a week. Oh, yeah, well, look, Samir, look. This is what's been going on. You understand? Look, it's not just you. Anybody who's tried to trade this thing outside of what Syl is talking about, playing off the bottom range here, it's been just as good of a sell at the top end of the range, right? So now, that's what I'm saying. We have some signs that things might be different here. Guys, remember, just like the rotation we were talking about, a value into tech. Yeah, the same thing. People were talking about, tech, you can't buy it. Rates are going higher. They sell tech. You just buy it and sell it at the bottom of the same thing. And then lo and behold, right, when positioning got too far extended, people got caught offside. And what happened? You had a monster breakout in tech and leadership. So that's what we're talking about here in the small caps. That's what we're talking about here. Look, this was the tech, right? This was the tech rate debacle. Same thing. Came in, up, sell it off, up, sell it off, up. But in the meantime, you had people short out the eyeballs tech, selling all their longs tech, and all going into reopening, cyclical, and value, right? So that's what caught our eye. And then it started to look different, right? The flow got more aggressive. The price action got more aggressive. Yeah, right, exactly. And look at this, man, and you talk about the moves in some of these names. I mean, look at some of the NVIDIA, where these things were, AMD. You guys have traded these things a gazillion times in this whole span. Look where NVIDIA was. Look. Right? So you're talking about entries like this. AMD. I remember AMD. Oh my God. I can never forget AMD. Nobody like that. Nobody wanted to touch this stock. Right? Oh, AMD is on my do not trade list every time I play this freaking thing. Ba, 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 ba. Boop. So that's where we potentially are right now. Oh, look at where Roku was, at the start of that. Bink, Bill was another name catching the action there. Those entries were, forget it. So that's where we are potentially here. Potentially. And I honestly I would rather see, Paul, it happens all the time. Do not trade list. No? Yeah, I've been on Bill, but I asked me if I benefited off this $50,000 move in one day. I mean, come on. That's what pisses me off. I know. You know what? You know what pisses me off, right? It's earnings. You know what I mean? That's what pisses me off. That's what pisses me off. Like, I'm never going to own the equity into earnings. That's never going to happen. You know, and I'm just been playing equity. I haven't been playing any calls. The only time I'm going to own calls is if I buy with enough time and I'm holding through quarters, you know. But the way I'm playing with equity, I'm never going to own it through earnings. It's too risky. No, I didn't cash this bill here. I had zero exposure into this. Struck. I'm going to hunt you down, Struck. I'm going to hunt you down. By the way, it doesn't matter what rotates into what. You know that, Bill? It doesn't matter. SE, you just buy it. Yeah, Uber. Yeah, I don't know about Uber. Uber's tough. You got a nice wash on it, but yeah, Uber's tough. There's easier things out there. BB, I mean, it's, you know, it's a meme name, but yeah. I mean, what's your downside here? Are you playing the equity, MGR? There's not much downside. You know, like you don't need to fall in love with this thing, right? You buy it, you put a stop somewhere around here, and maybe you get lucky. That's the way you got to play it, if you ask me. I know, but they're in that mean crowd. You know, that's, I think, the problem with this shit. This PLTR, which looks decent. It gets pulled into it. It's a shame, you know, MGR. It's a shame. But yeah, this thing looks interesting too. But you talk about pain in the rear end. It's a pain in the rear end, but it looks. This thing catches a ton of flow too. Ton of flow. There was a name that got bought out this weekend. Oh, not bought out. An agreement with Amazon. What's that stock? Affirm. That popped bigly in the aftermarket, right? All right. This is, you know, these are one of these names too. Yes, Snow. I think you could buy dips in Snow, right? Look, that was a gift. A couple of you guys caught it. No, the Snow dip. I don't know if you own it now. No. Oh, I think you. Who caught the action into the weakness? Later on, E. Oh, Pablo. Somebody caught it nice. Yeah, I don't know if they're getting bought out, but I'm telling you, there's flow all over it, and they buy every dip. You know, there's been a lot of names that they've been doing that with. Yeah, they haven't really gone nuts to the upside, but they buy every dip. You know, the big tech names are the names that I would just be a little more careful about at this point. Like, look at this Google. Look at this. You know, these things are nuts now. They're nuts. So these things may need to rest, and they rest and they go into small caps. Oh, Max. That's the stud of studs right there. This is the stock right here. This is some stock. MGR, that's, I mean, I don't, long Russell, short NASDAQ. I don't know if I would go short NASDAQ though. I don't know. That's tough. I don't know. Because you don't have the extreme positioning on the other side like you do in the Russell. You know, oh, that's what we didn't look like. look at. Hold on. That's what I forgot. I'll show you guys this and we'll wrap it up. This. I knew I forgot something. All right. So you guys remember what this looked like? Okay. Now you have basically no risk on or anything sector positioning here crowded. Nothing. Okay. Materials look like this. Tips. They're buying tips. Okay. Utilities up here, right? You know what was up here like that? Energy. Let's find energy. Oh, energy. MLP's energy. The AMLP and AMJ with master limited partnerships. ETP. You know ETP and ET, those stocks, right? So this basically, there looks like what, I don't know. They positioning for inflation? No, because commodities they've been selling. Here's tech. Look, that's nothing. Growth in value. Nothing. Precious metals. There's nothing, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought initially because of tips, right? But materials, they've been really selling significantly. Energy was part of the inflation trade. Now it's down here. Financials, remember how bullish financials? Here's what you had the last time. Materials. Oh my God, I can't write with this. Materials were up here. Energy. Yeah, sure. Next week I'll get this the way. Energy. And fins. Is tapering. All I know is my handwriting. My handwriting is pretty tapered. Right? So you had, these were the top three up here. And materials look like this, maybe even worse. You know, they're still long, but a lot of shakeout. And energy, look. Okay. Yeah, I need a doctor. That's what I need. All right. So there's a big shuffling around here. But yeah, nothing risk on. Is tapering priced in? I really don't know. I'm not gonna lie to you. I really don't know. I don't know. You would think it is. No, but I really don't know. You know, if you ask me, I think that we've been seeing tapering being factored in to pockets of the market in the price action. You know what I mean? It looks like the Fed's been tightening, in my opinion. That's what the price action looks in some of these things, right? The more speculative stuff all popped, right? SPACs, Kathy, memes, they all had a good beating. So I almost think like if we do get tapering, you might see these things come back to life again because, you know, the sell on the news, it's almost like the buy on the news. But put it this way, I don't know how much the Fed gets done. I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to taper one market reaction and they're done, the Fed. One tantrum and then they're done. What are they going to do? They're stuck. I think the biggest thing to fear is inflation, guys. That's the biggest thing to fear. That's why everybody is scared shitless of it. You know what I mean? That's the thing to worry about. You know, that's ultimately probably what's going to be what takes down this market when it finally, if it happens. But all the other stuff, I don't know how much we need to rack our brains about, you know. But you could see everybody's scared of inflation. You know what I mean? Look. So they went hyperinflation. Remember, everybody was, oh my God, the Weimar Republic, craziness, right? That's what everybody was concerned about. Now look at this, stagflation. All right. If history and Cathie Wood proves out right, you could end up seeing deflation. Right up here again, right? If everything goes by the book, this is exactly how it went out of 2008. I posted it, but I didn't read it. Was it any good? I want to read it. I didn't get a chance to read it. I just saw it and I posted it. Is it cool? Yeah, I understand why people get annoyed about Cathie. I like her, but I understand why people get annoyed because of you got a lot of clowns. And I told her how she was annoyed. Oh, yeah, she's been around. She knows her shit. She's no really, really. Wow. That's interesting. I'm gonna read that. I'm gonna read that. Yeah, well, you could see, right? When she believes something, she just goes all in, man. She's religious too. I'm gonna read that tree. It looked interesting. It looked interesting. I'm definitely when I get off of this, I'm gonna read it. If you're wondering what the hell we're talking about, I posted this. If you guys are curious, you want to read it. God, money, YOLO. Cathie Wood, how Cathie found her flock. Oh, wow. I didn't even realize that. All right, don't spoil it. Enough. Christ. Jeez. Nah, I'm kidding. I'm going to read it when I get off of this. I'm going to read it. DT, that's another name I like. There are a lot of names, individual names like underbelly names. Oh, this is new highs. This is new highs. You know, so hopefully, knock on wood, right? Keep an eye on the little guys and some stuff tied to the little guys, right? Let's see confirmation now in the flow and the sweeper activity, in the price action, and then, you know, maybe it leads to something really nice here. Yep, my pleasure, guys. Thanks for stopping by. And I will see most of you tomorrow. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Yep, stay safe out there.